Deep in the ocean's darkest corners, creatures exist that make alien life seem ordinary. We're talking about animals so strange, so perfectly adapted to impossible conditions that scientists doubted they could be real when first discovered. Some glow in the dark. Others survive pressures that would crush submarines. A few look like they were designed by someone who'd never seen Earth before. The ocean covers 70% of our planet, yet we've explored less than 5% of it. That gap, it's filled with things that rewrite biology textbooks. Let's start with the barrel-eye fish, because nothing prepares you for what evolution did here. Discovered in 1939, but not properly understood until 2004, this creature has a completely transparent head. Not translucent, transparent. You can see straight through its skull to the green glowing orbs inside, which are its actual eyes. Those tubular eyes point upward, scanning for prey silhouettes against the faint light filtering down from above. For decades, scientists only found dead specimens and assumed the fish had a normal head. Then researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute captured live footage at depths of 2,000 feet. The transparent dome they'd been throwing away as damaged tissue, that was the head, perfectly intact. The barrel-eye rotates those barrel-shaped eyes forward when it needs to see what it's eating, all while its brain sits exposed under a fluid-filled shield. It drifts motionless in the twilight zone, waiting with the patience of something that knows food is scarce and mistakes are fatal. But pressure is where the ocean really tests what's possible. The Mariana snailfish holds the record for deepest living fish ever recorded. In 2017, an expedition captured footage of this ghostly white creature swimming at 26,000 feet in the Mariana Trench. At that depth, the pressure exceeds 15,000 pounds per square inch. Your bones would powder, your cells would collapse. This fish doesn't even have scales. Its body is mostly gelatinous tissue, with bones so soft and flexible they bend rather than shatter. It doesn't have a swim bladder, the organ most fish use to control buoyancy, because any air pocket would implode instantly. Instead, it produces a chemical called trimethylamine oxide, which counteracts the crushing force at a molecular level. Scientists didn't think vertebrates could survive below 27,000 feet. The snailfish proved them wrong, thriving in a place darker and more hostile than the surface of Mars. Then there's the megamouth shark, a creature so rare that only 120 sightings have ever been confirmed. The first one washed ashore in Hawaii in 1976, tangled in a Navy research vessel's anchor. Marine biologists had no category for it. 15 feet long, weighing 1,200 pounds, with a mouth so enormous it could swallow a beach ball. Unlike other filter-feeding sharks, the megamouth has bioluminescent tissue lining its upper jaw. It swims slowly through deep water with its mouth open, glowing faintly, attracting plankton and small fish straight into the trap. During the day, it dives to depths of 500 feet. At night, it follows prey closer to the surface. Tagging studies revealed it moves between thermal layers with precision, always staying where the food migrates. For an animal that size, it's shockingly elusive. Entire decades pass between sightings in some regions. Speaking of things that glow, the Atala jellyfish takes bioluminescence to a different level entirely. Most jellyfish drift passively. The Atala doesn't. When a predator attacks, it unleashes what scientists call a burglar alarm display, a rotating wave of blue light that pulses across its bell like a siren. The light doesn't scare the predator. It attracts bigger predators. The Atala is essentially calling for backup, hoping something larger will show up and eat whatever's trying to eat it. This strategy works often enough that the species thrives between 3,000 and 13,000 feet deep. Researchers studying it noticed something else. The Atala doesn't age the way most animals do. Its cells regenerate continuously. It can repair damage that would kill other jellyfish outright. Some specimens observed in captivity appear biologically immortal, cycling between mature and juvenile states without degrading. Now, if you want truly alien, consider the vampire squid. Despite the name, it's not actually a squid or an octopus. It occupies its own order, a evolutionary branch that split off millions of years ago. It lives in oxygen minimum zones, areas of the ocean so depleted that most creatures suffocate. The vampire squid has blue blood loaded with copper-based hemocyanin, which binds oxygen far more efficiently than our iron-based hemoglobin. It can survive on oxygen levels that would kill a fish in minutes. When threatened, it doesn't spray ink. It releases a cloud of bioluminescent mucus filled with glowing orbs that confuse predators while it escapes. Then it turns itself inside out, pulling its webbed arms over its body and exposing rows of fleshy spines called chiri. In this defensive position, it looks less like an animal and more like a floating nightmare. Most deep-sea creatures are scavengers or hunters. The vampire squid does something weirder. It eats marine snow, the constant rain of dead plankton, feces, and decaying matter that drifts down from the sunlit zones above. It uses two long filaments covered in sticky mucus to collect particles, then pulls them through its arms like someone licking sauce off their fingers. It's one of the most energy-efficient feeding strategies ever documented. These aren't anomalies. They're answers to questions the ocean keeps asking. How do you see in total darkness? How do you survive pressure that bends steel? How do you find food when there's almost nothing to eat? Evolution responds with transparency, gelatinous bodies, glowing lures, and blood that works on a completely different chemical blueprint. And we're just scratching the surface. There are creatures down there that make these look ordinary. The barrel-eye fish sees the world through a transparent dome on its head. Its eyes aren't where you'd expect them. Those dark spots on its face that look like eyes are actually nostrils. The real eyes are inside its skull, two glowing green orbs that rotate upward to track prey silhouettes against the faint light from above. The skull itself is a fluid-filled dome, completely see-through, protecting the eyes while giving them 360-degree vision. For decades, scientists only saw dead specimens in nets. The transparent dome collapsed when brought to the surface, leaving researchers baffled about its actual function. It wasn't until 2004 that remotely operated vehicles captured footage of a living barrelay hovering motionless in the water column, eyes locked upward, waiting. The footage revealed something else. The fish can rotate its eyes forward when it needs to see what it's eating. That combination of upward surveillance and forward precision makes it a perfect ambush predator, in a zone where every calorie counts. Then there's the gulper eel, which looks less like an eel and more like a swimming mouth with a tail attached. Its jaw unhinges to engulf prey several times its own size. The stomach stretches like a balloon. One specimen was found with a fish inside that was longer than the gulper's entire body. How it swallowed something that large without tearing itself apart remains unclear. The tail ends in a glowing organ that flickers and pulses, possibly to lure prey or attract mates. Unlike most eels, it has tiny teeth, almost useless for biting. It doesn't need them, it just opens wide and creates suction. Everything nearby gets pulled into a gut that expands like it has no structural limits. Pressure at these depths does strange things to biology. The deeper you go, the softer creatures become. Bones turn to cartilage, muscles reduce to the bare minimum. The blobfish, infamous for looking like a melted human face in photos, actually looks normal at depth. The gelatinous tissue that makes it appear ridiculous on land is perfectly adapted for withstanding pressure that would crush an air-filled swim bladder. Bring it to the surface, and it decompresses into that sad meme everyone shares. But down where it belongs, it's just another predator, sitting on the seafloor, waiting for something edible to drift past. Not everything down there hunts. The sea pig, a type of sea cucumber, waddles across the abyssal plain on leg-like appendages, hoovering up nutrients from the sediment. It looks like a pink balloon animal made by someone who forgot what animals look like. Thousands of them cluster together in herds, farming the seafloor in slow motion. They're drawn to areas where whale carcasses have fallen, feasting on the bacterial mats that bloom around decaying tissue. A single dead whale can sustain a sea pig population for years. Whale falls create entire ecosystems. When a whale dies and sinks, it becomes a buffet that lasts decades. First come the scavengers, hagfish, and sleeper sharks that tear into the blubber. Then come the worms. Ossidax, bone-eating worms, drill into the skeleton and dissolve it from the inside using acid and bacteria. They have no mouth, no stomach. They're basically roots with plumes. Females anchor to the bone and grow a branching root system that digests marrow. Males are microscopic and live inside the females, thousands of them, doing nothing but fertilizing eggs. The whale's bones remain on the seafloor for 50 years or more, slowly dissolving as an entire community of worms, crabs, and bacteria extracts every molecule of energy. Some species exist only on whale falls. They've evolved to drift as larvae across miles of empty ocean, waiting to smell the chemical signature of decay. When they find it, they settle and feed until the bones are gone. Then their offspring launch into the current, searching for the next carcass. It's an existence entirely dependent on death raining down from above. The deeper you go, the weirder time becomes. Metabolism slow to a crawl. A Greenland shark found at depths exceeding 7,000 feet can live for over 400 years. It grows 1 centimeter per year. By the time it's sexually mature, it's already older than most countries. Its flesh is toxic, filled with trimethylamine oxide to counteract the pressure. Indigenous populations in the Arctic have eaten it for centuries, but only after burying it for months to let it ferment and break down the toxins. Even then, it can make you sick. The shark doesn't care. It drifts through freezing water, scavenging whatever it finds, outliving everything. Longevity is common in the deep. The orange roughy, a commercial fish species that lives near underwater mountains, can reach 200 years old. Fisheries collapsed entire populations before anyone realized how slow they reproduce. A fish caught in the 1990s might have been born before the French Revolution. By the time regulations arrived, the damage was done. Deep sea species don't bounce back. There's no rapid breeding cycle, no population explosion to replace what's lost. Everything moves in geological time. The Hadal Zone, the deepest trenches on Earth, was thought to be lifeless. Then cameras descended into the Mariana Trench and found snailfish thriving at depths beyond 26,000 feet. These fish have no scales. Their bones are barely calcified. They're translucent, ghostly, and completely unbothered by pressure that would liquefy a human instantly. They swim in slow loops, feeding on tiny crustaceans that somehow survive in total darkness under the weight of 7 miles of ocean. Scientists expected silence. Instead, they recorded sounds, groans, clicks, and low-frequency rumbles that travel for hundreds of miles. Some are biological. Others might be geological, the Earth itself shifting and grinding in places we'll never see. What else is making noise down there? We don't know yet. Every expedition finds something that wasn't supposed to exist. The ocean floor isn't flat. It's a landscape of mountains taller than Everest, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, and volcanic ridges that stretch for thousands of miles. The mid-ocean ridge system wraps around the planet like the seam on a baseball, 40,000 miles of underwater mountains where tectonic plates pull apart and new crust is born. Magma wells up from the mantle, cools instantly in seawater, and forms fresh rock that spreads outward. The entire ocean floor is a conveyor belt, constantly recycling itself. Nothing on land compares. At these ridges, hydrothermal vents blast superheated water into the freezing abyss. The water reaches 700 degrees Fahrenheit but doesn't boil because the pressure is so immense. It erupts from chimneys made of minerals, some as tall as 18-story buildings, belching black or white plumes depending on their chemical makeup. These vents were discovered in 1977, and they rewrote the rules of biology. Life was thought to require sunlight. Every ecosystem on Earth traced back to photosynthesis. Then scientists found thriving communities around vents in total darkness, powered entirely by chemosynthesis. Bacteria convert hydrogen sulfide, a poison to most life, into energy. They form the base of a food web that includes tube worms, clams, crabs, and fish. Some tube worms grow over 8 feet long and live for more than 200 years. They have no mouth, no digestive system. Bacteria living inside them provide all their nutrients. It's a partnership so tight that neither can survive without the other. These ecosystems exist on a knife edge. Vents don't last forever. Tectonic shifts can shut them down without warning. When the water stops flowing, everything dies. Species have adapted by spreading across multiple vent sites, their larvae drifting in currents for weeks or months, searching for the chemical signal of a new eruption. Some researchers believe life on Earth might have started at these vents, in the chemical chaos where hot meets cold and energy flows freely. If that's true, then the deep ocean isn't just a place life adapted to. It's where life began. Underwater volcanoes number in the tens of thousands. Most have never been named. Some erupt constantly, others sleep for centuries before roaring back. When they do erupt, the explosions can be catastrophic. In 1883, Krakatoa's eruption was heard 3,000 miles away. But submarine eruptions often go unnoticed until boats stumble across fields of floating pumice or dead fish. The rock cools so fast underwater that it traps gas bubbles, making it light enough to float. Rafts of pumice can drift for years, carrying organisms across ocean basins and introducing species to ecosystems they never evolved in. It's biological roulette. Seamounts, extinct underwater volcanoes, rise from the abyssal plain like islands that never broke the surface. They create upwellings, currents that drag nutrients from the deep and concentrate life. Fish swarm around them. Sharks patrol their slopes. Commercial fishing fleets have hammered these spots for decades, dragging nets across delicate coral forests that took millennia to grow. A single pass can destroy structure that won't recover in a human lifetime. Regulations exist now, but enforcement in international waters is a joke. The deep sea is the least protected environment on the planet. Mining companies are eyeing the abyssal plains, where potato-sized nodules of manganese, cobalt, and nickel litter the seafloor. These nodules grow a few millimeters every million years, formed by minerals precipitating out of seawater. They're incredibly slow to form and impossible to replace. Scraping them up would obliterate everything living on and in the sediment, creating plumes of disrupted mud that could spread for hundreds of miles. We have no idea what the long-term effects would be. We've barely cataloged what's down there. Proposals to begin commercial mining are moving forward anyway. There's money in the dark, and money doesn't wait for science. Plastic has reached the deepest trenches. Microplastics have been found in the guts of amphipods from the Mariana Trench, creatures living in the most remote place on Earth. A grocery bag was filmed at 36,000 feet, crumpled on the seafloor like litter in a parking lot. The deep was supposed to be pristine, untouched by human activity. That illusion is go-ah-ni. Chemical pollutants, forever chemicals like PFAS, don't break down. They sink, accumulate, and work their way into organisms that will carry them for centuries. We've poisoned places we've never even visited. The ocean absorbs a quarter of the carbon dioxide we emit. It's slowing climate change, but at a cost. As CO2 dissolves into seawater, it forms carbonic acid, lowering the pH. Ocean acidification makes it harder for anything with a shell or skeleton to build and maintain structure. Corals bleach and weaken. Mollusks produce thinner shells. Pteropods, tiny snails that float in the water column and form a critical part of the food web, are already showing signs of shell dissolution in some regions. If they collapse, everything that eats them follows. The deep ocean doesn't operate on our timescale. It doesn't heal quickly. Changes we make now will echo for thousands of years. We've explored more of the moon's surface than the ocean floor. We've sent robots to Mars, but left most of our own planet unmapped. What we've found in the small fraction we've studied suggests the deep is far stranger and more vital than we imagined. It regulates climate, produces oxygen, cycles nutrients, and holds ecosystems unlike anything on land. Ignoring it won't make it less important. The abyss doesn't care if we pay attention. It just keeps running, dark and cold and full of life we're only beginning to understand. We've mapped distant galaxies but left our own ocean a mystery. The creatures living in that darkness aren't just surviving impossible conditions. They're thriving in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about life itself. Transparent skulls, glowing alarms, blood that works on alien chemistry. The deep isn't empty. It's full of answers we haven't learned to ask the questions for yet. Every dive finds something that rewrites the textbook. What's waiting in the 95% we haven't seen?